natin, ano yung gender? Tapos naman, tinanong, ano gender?
Gender? Hindi ko kaya maintindihan, sorry.
Ang gender naman kung ano ang parang tinadhana o tinakda sa'yo ng kultura.
Sexual orientation and gender preference.
Yung gender po, tungkol siya sa power. So, kailangan natin tinitingnan palagi paano ba nakakonfigure yung power sa lahat.
Sa tingin niyo, bakit siya importante sa rehabilitasyon?
Kailangan siya kasi iba-iba ang needs ng mga tao, depende sa gender nila.
Importante siya sa recovery and rehabilitation kasi pag hindi natin yun tinitingnan, marami tayong nami-miss out.
So that is why gender is included in the program of Oxfam.
Then after that, of course, we need to look at how our programs and project can provide specific solutions to those specific needs of men.
So our ultimate aim was to uncover and unearth the gender realities or the gendered realities of people in the high-end affected areas. We say unearth because I'm sure with our colleagues working on gender are very agree on this. That in working with gender, because it's so intangible, you literally have to dig it out to look at the patterns that exist. These are the issues or parang what comes out in every engagement with the respondents. There are lots of pre-existing issues. One of them is about land rights and ownership. The basic services are worse after Haiyan. We all know about that. We know that the health centers are gone, the schools are destroyed. They heard stories already of the typhoon. So she listened, and they evacuated to the designated evacuation area. But the husband, who was a fisherfolk, stayed at home because he preferred to guard the house and the boat. Because it's very important for him. Power structures define and have defined the context of the area. There's so many things not to consider when you look at the overall context of the areas. You have more needs and vulnerabilities now, especially.
Some humanitarian workers who would look at me so strangely, What are you doing here in this response? It's too early for you to come, Because we need speed and all these things. Do we really talk about gender when everyone was so busy distributing so many things? If you don't have the gender lens, that's all people. So when you say all people, it's generic. It's generic, so therefore the assistance becomes also generic. But then when we put gender, looking at the people as not as similar and generic at all, then we design and really design the way we do emergency interventions, humanitarian assistance. Women are the primary users and managers of WASH. So They are well placed to contribute to planning, decision making, and management. So the question is, for all the different WASH actors, do we really engage with women and ask them to plan with us or even to lead the planning? Women are so busy doing a lot of volunteer work in the community, but they don't actually make decisions in the community. They just do the work. When decisions are being asked, they're not anymore part of it. So we have to add opportunities so that they can become leaders on their own, in their families, in their communities. So that they can, and we can do this by organizing them or supporting existing women's groups. If we fail to identify gender-specific needs and interests, then women will find themselves with less time, less money, material resources, power or security, and gender inequalities will be further perpetuated and deepened.
Nine months after Haiyan, thousands of men and women don't know if they will be resettled, when it will happen, or where they will be resettled. Likewise, they don't know what this means for their livelihoods. Oxfam's survey findings include relocation planning must take into consideration livelihoods. That's the first one. According to the survey, 49% of respondents cited livelihood opportunities as the most important criterion that authorities should consider in choosing a relocation site. Oxfam survey also showed that the rights of affected communities to access information and participate meaningfully in the planning and implementation of the relocation process are not being met. For relocation to be successful and durable, as well as truly voluntary, it is essential that people targeted for relocation are able to make informed and voluntary decisions. So this requires that they have access to all necessary information as well as understanding of the options available for them.
Men and women often voice pretty similar but not identical priorities with respect to resettlement. But women also often tended to mention and prioritize safety more, as well as access to basic services. And some of the women who responded to our survey also expressed concerns about their ability to maintain social relationships with family and community once they're in the permanent resettlement sites. And the importance accorded to maintaining this proximity to family and friends reflects not just the social needs of women, but also economic ones. Women are often relying on extended networks to help them with issues like childcare, which then enables them to pursue other productive income-generating work outside of the house. And so it's these types of points that we need to take into account with livelihoods planning. It's not just the very visible activities of primary income earners, which are often men, but also a whole range of the productive and care roles that women are playing both inside and outside of the home. But both government and NGO actors have responded strongly to these concerns over the last few months and have done so through several important initiatives that have incorporated gender considerations. One result of these efforts has really been the strong involvement of women. And this has included women's leadership in mechanisms like WASH committees, GBV watch groups, and women as acting as head of blocks in transitional sites. And so this organizing has really provided opportunities for women's voices to be voiced more strongly, for greater engagement, and for women's leadership in their communities. And so this is a really positive step forward. And so our presentation today is unfortunately fewer answers and more questions, but we are hoping that discussions throughout the day can really help us to advance our thinking and ideally to really inspire other people in this room to also take a stronger gender lens in any work that they're doing in relation to resettlement processes.
By diversifying livelihoods,
To a small extent, there is evidence of women leadership being integrated, but I think it's really, for me, I see it not taken as a priority at all. Although there are laws that provide for women to take an active role, there is no space we are providing for women to take leadership role. There is no mechanisms put in place to facilitate women leadership role. There is no attempt to be able to confront the unequal power relations at all.
In the economic sphere, so especially the Typhoon Haiyan areas, women are not really are really economically marginalized. And when you look at their livelihoods, often they are at the bottom, or if you base it on the value chain, so they are at the lower end of the value chain. So there's really very little economic opportunities for women. In our livelihoods program, so we do provide specific opportunities for women, not only for them to participate, but really to build their leadership.
Listahan sa barangay para magbigay ng relief goods. Now, how does that place yung LGBT persons sa disadvantage state, no? Maaaring ako, kumari, lesbiana ako, maaaring ako may pinakasama pero hindi kami kasal. So, maaaring hindi kami kasama dun sa listahan yun.
In every barangay, I'm sure there is a case for RA 9262. This can be physical violence, this can be psychological, verbal abuse, this can be financial abuse, and there could even be rape.
Reproductive health is a human right, and it is a biopsychosocial health need. Again, going back to the definition of reproductive health, it's biological, it's psychological, it's social. In times of emergency situations, the risk of sexual violence increases because of the social instability that happens. Malnutrition and epidemics increase risk of pregnancy complications. And it becomes high risks, not just for the mother, but also for the baby. You cannot count the number of under 5 mortalities already in Zamboanga that happened in that evacuation camp.
These are the women after the storm. There was a hidden discrimination of women, even among officials there. And I think it's good that when you organize women, then all the parties know that kind of attitude existing before. And I think all disaster response programs should have a gender lens. And it should not even be a lens that you need to do when you're there. Pagkaaralan mo pa, in an academic way, have a checklist of what the expected gender needs are in a disaster and work from that. No? Identify practical strategic needs. You can do that. You can do that already from experience.
Sa relasyon ninyong mag-asawa bago ang nilala after naging mas maganda po ba?
Yung relasyon ng mag-asawa naman yan
So sabing pagtulong pa lang, ramdam na ng mga katutubo yung marginalization, exclusion.
Before Yolanda came, they were already organized. So, self-organized na sila. So they were ignored, neglected talaga for 2 weeks. They were not even considered by the provincial disaster team.
We have learned now we have to stand and we need solidarity with each other.
Nakikita namin yung kahalagahan ng pag-involve ng mga local women leaders sa baba.
lalo na doon sa pagpaplano at pag-assess kung ano yung pangailangan ng kababatihan.
Noon nga, doon ako natutong maging karpentera. Nagawa ko yung bahay ko. Na dati hindi ko naman ginagawa yun kasi malay ko ba? Yun ang naging ko sa Oxfam at Green Mindanao.
Nagbigay sila ng tulong katulad ng Cash for Work. Sa mga senior citizen, binibigyan din nila ng ng grant, cash grant. The lactating women. Tapos yung mga single parent.
Yung kakulangan ng pag-build nila sa bahay nila, yung kita doon sa organization na at tinulungan ng Oxfam, katulong din sa paggagawa ng bahay nila.
Sa pagbuo ng grupo ng Abante ay isa ang likhaan sa nagfinance sa kanila para ma-organize kami.
Sa mga partnerships kasi namin, ini-involve nila yung mga local leaders namin doon sa proseso ng mga konsultasyon sa barangay level. Ang iba sa kanila nagiging volunteer. Isa sa mga kailanganin pang gawin ay yung pagkapacitate talaga ng mga local leaders.
Women's Center lang po na mapagdadausan namin ng meeting at masisilungan ng mga kababaihan. Mayroon pong kwarto na pwedeng susupo yung mga lactating mothers at makapahinga po yung mga pregnant women po namin. Ay sapat na po yun.